The rain fell steadily against the windows of the small grocery store as Elias Carter stacked boxes near the front counter. It had been a long day, and most customers had already hurried home before the storm became worse. Just as he was about to lock the door, it opened, and a woman stepped inside with 3 children. Her clothes were soaked from the rain, and the youngest child was shivering as she held him close. The older boy and little girl stayed close to her side, their eyes filled with uncertainty. Elias noticed how exhausted the woman looked. Not the kind of tiredness that came from a bad day, but the kind that came from years of carrying burdens alone. He greeted her warmly and offered towels for the children. She thanked him quietly and began looking through the shelves. The children stared at the food with hungry eyes, and Elias immediately understood more than she wanted to say. When she reached the counter, she carefully counted a few dollars and realized it wasn't enough. Embarrassment filled her face. She began removing items one by one until only a loaf of bread remained. Elias gently stopped her. Without making a scene, he packed everything back into the bags and told her the store was running a special promotion. Tears filled her eyes, but she nodded silently and left with her children. Most people would have forgotten the moment the next day, but Elias couldn't. Something about her quiet dignity stayed in his mind. The following week she returned. Her name was Lena Brooks, and she was a widow raising 3 children alone after losing her husband in a tragic accident 3 years earlier. Life had not been kind to her. She worked 2 jobs, slept very little, and spent every dollar making sure her children had what they needed. Yet despite everything, she never complained. Over time, Elias and Lena began talking whenever she visited the store. The conversations were simple at first, but they slowly grew longer. He learned about her dreams, her fears, and the sacrifices she made every day. She learned that Elias had spent years caring for his elderly father before losing him, and that he understood loneliness better than most people imagined. Months passed, and a friendship formed. The children grew comfortable around him. They would rush into the store and tell him stories about school while Lena shopped. Elias found himself looking forward to those visits more than anything else in his week. One evening, after helping Lena carry groceries to her car, he realized he was no longer helping her because he felt sorry for her. He cared about her deeply. But he also knew how difficult her life was. The last thing he wanted was to make things harder. So he kept his feelings to himself. Then one day, Lena received news that threatened to change everything. The company where she worked announced layoffs, and her position was eliminated. She tried to stay strong for the children, but the pressure became overwhelming. Bills piled up, stress consumed her, and she felt like she was failing. One evening, after putting the children to bed, she sat alone on her porch and cried. She thought nobody could see her. But Elias had stopped by to check on her after hearing about her job. He quietly sat beside her and listened as she poured out months of pain she had hidden from everyone. She spoke about feeling invisible, unwanted, and broken. She admitted that people often looked at her and saw only problems. A widow. 3 children. Financial struggles. Endless responsibilities. When she finally stopped speaking, there was silence between them. Then she looked away and whispered words she had been carrying for years. No one marries a widow with 3 kids. The sentence hung heavily in the air. Lena wasn't asking for sympathy. She genuinely believed it was true. Life had convinced her that her story made her unworthy of a second chance. Elias looked at her for a moment before smiling gently. Then he said the words that would change everything. They haven't met you. Lena stared at him in disbelief. For the first time in years, someone wasn't seeing her circumstances. He was seeing her. He saw her strength, her kindness, her courage, and the incredible mother she was. He saw the woman who kept going when most people would have given up. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she realized nobody had spoken to her that way in a very long time. Over the following months, their relationship grew naturally. Elias spent time with the children, attended school events, and became a trusted part of their lives. He never tried to replace their father. Instead, he earned their trust through consistency, patience, and love. Eventually, he proposed in the simplest way possible during a family picnic at the park. The children were the first to cheer when Lena said yes through happy tears. Their wedding wasn't expensive. There were no luxury decorations or grand venues. but it was filled with something far more valuable: genuine love. Friends, neighbors, and family gathered to celebrate a woman who thought she would never be chosen again and a man who recognized her worth long before she did. As Lena walked down the aisle with her children beside her, she realized that the hardest chapters of her life had not been the end of her story. They had simply been preparing her for a new beginning. Years later, when people asked Elias why he chose a widow with 3 children, he always gave the same answer. He never saw a widow with 3 children. He saw an extraordinary woman who refused to quit when life became difficult. He saw someone whose heart remained kind despite heartbreak. And he knew that a person like that was rare. Their story became a reminder to everyone who heard it that your past does not determine your future, and your struggles do not reduce your value. Sometimes the right person sees beyond the labels, beyond the mistakes, beyond the hardships, and recognizes the incredible person underneath. If you enjoyed this inspiring story and believe everyone deserves a second chance at happiness, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who needs encouragement today. Remember, life may close one chapter unexpectedly, but that doesn't mean the story is over. Sometimes the most beautiful pages are still waiting to be written. The end.